Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2 might be some of the most hated entries in the entire Halloween franchise. The gruesome and explicit remake and its sequel have been a subject of debate amongst horror fans for the past 10 years, which comes as no surprise since fans and critics alike were nothing but disparaging about the aesthetic value and writing on both films following their theatrical releases, leaving a bad taste in their mouth until 2018 when everyone's favorite mask killer would make his triumphant return. Why is it so popular to hate on Rob Zombie's adaptations, and are they really as bad as everyone makes them out to be? Hello everyone, it's me Gary, and this is my top 5 reasons why Rob Zombie's Halloween films are better than you think. Number 5. The shitty sequels and a fresh new take. As of 2021, there's been a newfound interest amongst young people in Michael Myers and the Halloween franchise. I mean, with the new trilogy in production and Michael Myers showing up in almost every media form possible from video games to social media, it's almost impossible for anyone not to know who the Haddonfield slasher is. But back in 2006, Halloween was good as dead. That's right, the now popular franchise was nothing but a sad memory in fans' minds. The last film in the series featuring Myers was back in 2002 with the critically panned Halloween Resurrection, which marked the second time the franchise had officially died, the first one being back in 1995 with the horrendous release of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. It wasn't until then that director/rockstar Rob Zombie, having just shot the box office hit The Devil's Rejects, was asked to direct a remake of the original. Rob's films may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I think people are either being too forgiving or neglecting the fact that in 2006, the franchise was just filled with stink bombs. When someone says,
Rob Zombie's Halloween ruined the franchise,
it's hard to be taken seriously, especially when you've seen everything from far-fetched cults to a kung fu rapper. Number 4. Multidimensional characters.
oh my god, Rob Zombie's characters are all white trash. All they do is curse all the time.
Well, I think that's just fans oversimplifying both movies. Yes, there's a lot of foul language in Rob's films, but I think you're missing the most important part, which is Rob did something right. He gave some of those one-dimensional characters some layers. After all, name one character aside of Laurie that wasn't one-dimensional. And yes, Dr. Loomis was one-dimensional. A crazy doctor goes after Michael, telling everyone that he's the devil incarnate. That has as many layers as Crazy Ralph from Friday the 13th. For example, Malcolm McDowell's Dr. Loomis was a selfish, arrogant, and narcissistic psychiatrist who at first befriends Michael as a child, only to profit from him years later. By the end of the second film, he sacrifices himself in order to save Laurie and probably seek redemption for all the harm that he indirectly caused to others. Him and a list of characters that include Sheriff Brackett, Annie, Laurie, and Michael have all been given new layers to add some depth to their respective characters. Number 3. One film is all it takes. You might be thinking,
Well, if Rob did such a horrible job, why was he given the chance to direct the sequel?
well, you see, the answer is quite simple. The remake was actually well received amongst the majority of fans. You got to remember one thing. Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 had 2 acts. The first half of the movie was about Michael as a kid, and the second one was a reimagining of the events of the original. It was like selling a vanilla and chocolate ice cream to everyone. Some people loved the first act, while the others loved the second one. Still, people were psyched to watch the sequel and see what else Rob had in store for them. Then the sequel happened, and Rob's psychedelic symbolisms were all, let's say, not well received.
Oh my god, what's with the white horse thing? That was stupid. That was just a sad excuse to have his wife show up in the movie.
Clearly, Rob was trying a new approach, and to be honest with you, I actually dig it. Ever since the first movie, Michael was advised to be free and live in his head. So why wouldn't he envision his dead mother and the white horse she gave him for his birthday? In his mind, in a sick, demented way, he was trying to get his family together, which makes more sense as to why he went after Laurie the whole time. The ending is meant to be tragic, and if you're ever interested, maybe I'll make a video about it some other time. People were expecting a silly, brainless slasher, and instead, they got Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which is a drama. My point being, it's hard to please everyone, and the same thing might happen to the new trilogy too. Number 2. Fickle fans.
So what do you think of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch? Oh my god, it's one of the best Halloween movies ever. It's a shame they didn't follow that direction.
Yeah, that's the answer you would get in 2021. But 20 years ago, you might have heard differently. That's right, back in those days, everyone hated Season of the Witch. Calling it downright stupid, its plot, the fact that it didn't feature Michael Myers. Don't believe me? Well, history will say otherwise. There's a reason why Michael had to be brought back for the sequel after all.
So what's your point, bro?
My point is, most Halloween fans are fickle. In the early 2000s, it was cool to hate on Season of the Witch. Same as how now it's cool to actually appreciate H2O. They used to love Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, and then it's easy to shit on Rob Zombie just because he hasn't made another major studio film in years. I think that in time, after Halloween is being remade for the billionth time, people will look back and appreciate all the cool stuff that Rob did. Number 1. The Michael Myers origin story. Have you ever seen that Q&A video where John Carpenter shits on Rob Zombie? Yeah, well, every single Halloween fan has.
What's your point, bro? He's right, you know.
I know, right? He's the original director, the master of horror, so he must be right, huh? Well, he's entitled to his opinion, but that doesn't mean that he has the final say. I mean, Ridley Scott, Alien, anyone? I like to mention this because I've heard that
The force of nature.
argument so many times. And no, not just from Carpenter himself, but from his legion of fans too. Fans who like an opinion of their own and as a result have to use someone else's assessment. You're all acting as if Carpenter wanted to make an instant classic from the get-go. The man wanted to make a horror movie because it was the most profitable thing to do at the time. Let's just be honest.
Oh my god, Rob's Michael was just the FBI's checklist of a serial killer red flag.
So Rob tried to give a serial killer traits that a real serial killer would probably have. So what? That's reality, right? And that's not scary? Is that what you're saying? Look, as much as I love the old Halloween films, let's be honest, it's just a guy in a mask. Rob tried to make the audience empathize with Michael, a different and fresh new take on the guy who kills people in the movie. Take Silent Night, Deadly Night as an example. What makes that film so different than the other 80s slashers?
Oh, it's because he's dressed as Santa Claus, bro. It was controversial at the time, bro. That makes it cool, though.
Well, no. Back in the 80s, all slasher films were a bunch of teenagers being killed by the guy in the mask. As an audience, we would be following the stupid teenagers, which I guess would make us feel a connection to them as they get killed, which usually failed, and as an audience, we just wanted all of them to die. In Silent Night, Deadly Night, the whole movie we see it through Billy's eyes. We know what he went through as a kid, and therefore, instead of worrying about those sacks of meat called victims, we're actually feeling for poor old Billy. Rob Zombie's Michael is very similar. We spent half the movie through his eyes, what it was like growing up the way he did, giving Michael something else other than just being a silent killer. Is it any better? Not necessarily, but it was different. And I'm sorry, but anyone who was expecting a remake of the original and have Michael be the same character of 1978 should have stayed home and watched the remake of Psycho or The Omen. Overall, if you're still watching this, I just want you to know that I'm not trying to persuade you to like something you didn't. I'm just another horror fan who thinks that Rob's work was misunderstood and to this day is still highly underrated. Either way, rock on horror fans and happy Halloween.